Hello friends, welcome back with a new episode on Selenium. Today we will be talking about WebDriver. Before getting started, do not forget to like, subscribe and share so that I get motivated to create more videos like this. The first question that should come to our mind is what is WebDriver? WebDriver for Selenium is an interface. What does this interface do? The purpose of WebDriver is to enable introspection of browsers with which we would be able to manipulate and use the DOM elements to perform our activities or actions on the element. That forms the basis or the platform on which our whole automation depends on. For automating any of the web applications, we have to get into the browser and perform activities on the elements for the sites which is under test. To understand WebDriver further, let's understand the hierarchy in which WebDriver lies in the whole Selenium world. Search context is the root of Selenium. WebDriver extends search context. Search context is an interface which has two methods, find element and find elements. WebDriver is again an interface which talks about driver instantiation. Remote WebDriver is the first class on the line. Wherever we want to execute things using Selenium Grid, we would be using a remote WebDriver where all the execution will take place in a remote system. We will again talk about remote WebDriver in detail in future sessions. All the browser driver extends the remote WebDriver. For the local initialization, we would use this browser drivers to instantiate the browser. And every browser has its own browser driver, which means if I want to instantiate Chrome, I'll have a Chrome driver, Edge, I'll have an Edge driver. For Firefox, I'll have a Firefox driver, and so on for every other browsers. After Selenium 4, some of the browsers like Chrome, Edge has a new introduction of parent driver or the Chromium driver, which comes in between the remote web driver and the browser driver. So the Chromium driver extends the remote web driver and Chrome driver now extends the Chromium driver, which eventually, as discussed in previous sessions, uses the developer tool, DevTools, for working on the DOMs, on the elements to perform actions. Now, all these are as per W3C standards, World Wide Web Consortium. As we would be knowing, any of the interface cannot have an object. WebDriver is an interface, which means we cannot create an object of WebDriver. But we would require to have an object for the instantiation of the whole browser so that we can perform actions on the browser on our applications under test. What we need to do is we have to create the object for remote WebDriver or the browser driver depending on if we want to execute our test case in a remote system or we want to execute our test case in local system and have a reference variable of WebDriver. There may be a query. Why do we need to have a reference variable of WebDriver? First thing, we can have the reference variable of the browser driver and remote WebDriver as well. But if we have the reference variable of browser driver in the local machine, we cannot change the driver into some other browsers. We have to create a new object altogether, which means if we have created a browser driver instance of Firefox, we cannot change it into Chrome driver instance if we are using the reference variable of browser driver. Now, the next question which can arise in our mind is why don't we have the reference variable of remote WebDriver? We definitely can have reference variable of remote WebDriver, but the level of abstraction in remote WebDriver is not very useful from a testing point of view. That's why we use the reference variable of WebDriver. Let's see all of this in action. I've already created a structure for our demo. What I've done first is created a Maven project. I have added the dependency for Selenium. Currently, I'm using a version of 4.0.0. In the main, I have created a demo for Scratch project. You need not have a public static void main while you are testing. We will learn about framework in our future sessions. If you see here, I have created a web driver. I have created an instance of Firefox driver, and I'm just trying to open a Google page and say that a driver is launched successfully. If I execute this, we get an error because we are supposed to set a system property, which means we have to download the exe file of the current browser driver, whichever we are using. The browser driver has to be compatible with the browser. The browser changes its version very frequently. There are new features, new patches being introduced to the browser in probably every month. Our test may fail every now and then because the exe file of the browser driver may get old, obsolete. So what do? Till 4, we had one option called WebDriverManager, which means we had to add this line called WebDriverManager.FirefoxDriver.setup for the Firefox driver. Similarly, all the respective browser drivers. And if you see the red marking over here, that's because we haven't added the dependencies yet. So we have to add a dependency. It would be WebDriver Manager from the Boni Gracia. Once you copy the dependency, click on the sync button, go back to the project. You'd see an option to get the imports done. If I import the class, the error goes off. And now if I execute this, you'd be able to see a Firefox opening up with google.com in its URL. So this is one way of doing things, but not the only way. After 4.6, Selenium has introduced a concept of Selenium Manager, which it handles internally. So if I am using the version of Selenium as 4.6.0, and I remove these dependencies, go back to the project, comment this line out, remove this line. And if I execute this code again, the difference that we would see is now it would open up the page without any error. If you see, it has opened up the same Google page in Firefox browser. The reason is after 4.6.0, we do not need any of the exe files. We do not need any of the manager to provide the exe file for us. Now, this is about WebDriver, how to initialize WebDriver. How does it perform all this activity? So WebDriver is able to perform all this activity because it has some inner interfaces which helps provide few of the additional functionality needed for our test. Let's go inside WebDriver and check that out. So if you see this, there are few methods of WebDriver which are related to the browser. WebDriver methods are always related to execution of our automation with respect to the browser. All the web element specific functionalities are present in a different interface called web element. If you see here, there are some methods like get, which is used to open a website. There is get current URL, which is used to get the current URL that you have used, get title to get the title of the page that we have used. We also have two important methods, close and quit. The difference between close and quit is if we are using close, it will close only the current browser, whereas quit will close all the browser opened by Selenium throughout the program. The inner interface window again has the features to play with the window, like getting the size, resizing it, maximizing it, minimizing it, having a full screen, and so on. We also have an inner interface called navigation, which deals with or have access to the historical data of the browser, using which we can go back, go forward, go to a URL that we provide, refresh the page. The next inner interface that we have in place is target locator, which identifies the frames and windows. There is an inner interface called timeouts, which can be used for all the synchronization issues to be resolved. We have implicit wait, we have script timeouts, page load timeouts, and so on. The next interface in line is options, which is used to get all the details of cookies, delete the cookies, get the name of the cookies, etc. All the methods and the inner interfaces which are present in WebDriver is implemented by Remote WebDriver. That's all about WebDriver in short. Thank you for watching. This is Ajita from Automation Digest. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you again next time. Thank you.